Let's talk about brand building. Today, you manage 1000 crore. How did that happen? You are in a competitive space. Usually, people with wealth want to go with established brands, but you have been able to navigate pretty quickly to where you are today. So, how did that happen?
Pritish, it's been a journey. I still think about how much money we added in the last 15 days is much more than what we added in the first 2 months of our journey. Okay, and that's really, even in that like one odd year of our existence, you can see that compounding effect play out. And that's the thing about not only investing, but investing businesses also. One reality of our business is that trust is a super important factor because, okay, what is dezerv at the heart of it? We are not a supermarket. We are not a market where everything is on the shelf and the investor can come and choose from that themselves. We are a place where we are telling people that we do our work, leave your money with us, and we will either guide you or manage it for you. So essentially, we are asking them to trust us almost blindly. One thing is clear is that trust is one of those things that cannot be hacked. There is no short term solve for trust. I meet you today, you won't trust me instantaneously. It will take you time. You will see my behavior. You will see whether I'm calm, whether I react to provocations, to news in the right way. How is my portfolio behaving over a period of time? So, trust by itself is something that takes time to build. The other thing that we realize is that before you trust a brand, you trust the people behind the brand. So, one important thing for us was to expose our team to the world outside as opposed to just building the brand. Because we were quite confident that in the quality of talent that we are bringing on, if these folks, and this is not only on the investing side, but the overall company, if they talk to the world at large, we will generate trust among those who we hope to serve. And that is something that we did almost even before we launched. We wrote about how we think about investing. We wrote about how we see this current market environment, especially on topical matters, to be able to convey that how we are reacting in that situation. And by the way, most of the time the answer would be that we are not reacting to that situation. And that over a period of time started compounding. So one of the things that we realize is if we are putting ourselves out there, it creates much greater trust and the willingness of investors to deploy capital with us. One of the other areas that we were fortunate with is we come from a background of investing. We have done this for 17, 18, 20 years before we started dezerv. And to that extent, therefore, we knew that we had to operate in a regulated environment. One thing which we were absolutely clear about is we will not do anything which is outside the regulatory ambit, because in the era that we started, which is circa 2021, it was a very different world. There were a lot of new age assets that were coming up, and there was a lot of intensity and pressure on potentially offering those solutions on the platform. But through this, we stayed clear that we will focus on the regulated set of assets. And in fact, here is where the regulators also were kind enough to give us the licenses in time, and potentially because of our previous experience, we were able to get those. So I think it's a combination of many things, but I would put the patient trust building that we are trying to do at the top of it. But I think it's still a very long journey ahead. 1,000 crores is a meaningful amount. I think it's only a fraction of what we hope this business will be.
Your initial investors are top notch venture capitalists. Why do you think they invested in you?
Again, here is where I can only speculate. I think while they've written their investment thesis around it, I think a lot of it is what is between the lines and unsaid. I'll sort of abstract away from dezerv when I answer this question, because and put myself in the shoes of an investor. What does an investor really look at when they hear a pitch? Going in, one thing is clear is that the investor already potentially has a thesis around the space that you're talking about. So one is that they need to believe that there is a secular trend playing out here, which potentially in our case is the fact that Indians are going to get more affluent and therefore they are going to put more money towards financial investing. The second is that is the approach something that can resonate within their thesis, which in our case is the fact that after a certain quantum of capital is created, you want help with that money, that you want some expert to manage it for you because you may not have time, inclination, bandwidth to deploy towards managing that money. After that, it becomes primarily about the team. It becomes about the fact that is this the team that I can bet which is likely going to pull it off. That I would believe is something that they would look at. But one of the things that was important from our perspective, Pritish, is also like I think investors select entrepreneurs, but in some sense entrepreneurs also select the kind of investors. And for us, what was very reassuring is that there was a lot of resonance with our long-term thinking. And while today in 2022 last quarter when we sit here, this long-term thinking story is easy to talk about. In early 2021, which is when the first fundraise happened, this was not very obvious. It was about how we will crack open the market in the next 6 months, what is it that you will do? Whereas with the investors that we were fortunate to have, they understood that wealth is a business that compounds over time, and that the biggest ally that any entrepreneur can have in this business is having time on their side. And therefore having investors who understand the value of that. Going in from both our lead investors at that time, the concept was very simple. We'll build this patiently, we'll build this calmly, and that I think really helped us also. And I think for an entrepreneur, if the investor can help align with the entrepreneur's thinking, it give the entrepreneur a lot of confidence. Probably maybe I can talk about folks like us who hope to step out. One is that there is a common perception that if you're in your late 30s or early 40s, it's already too late to start up. That is not true. It is probably the best time to do it because by that time you have the amount of industry domain exposure experience, but also the fact that you have enough energy within you to pull it off. So you're, I think, at that cusp of the combination of experience and enthusiasm that you need. So that is one. The second is that the assumption that startups are only for people who are engineers or who have an experience in the startup ecosystem. That's also not true. Today, we are at a point where a lot of interesting businesses are being created by mature folks who are from other industries, from conventional manufacturing, from financial services, etc. So I think this is potentially the best time for any entrepreneur to start thinking about building a business, irrespective of their age and the background that they come. And that's what's exciting.